All right, welcome back, everybody. Thirsty Thursday number 38. Tonight we have the extreme honor and pleasure to be talking with one of the best human beings to walk the face of the planet, and that is the gentleman to my left, right, whichever, to my side, Mr. Tommy Kane. Tommy has had a wonderful career through various places, and I am super excited to hear about all of that tonight. So I'm going to cut it short. We'll kick it down to Trevor real quick. Bobby and Mike are out wrangling the vertically challenged, so they will be joining us as soon as they get that all taken care of. But for now, let's kick it down to Trevor and then hear what TK has to say.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Just like you, I'm really excited to have Tommy Kane on, or TK as he's known to the majority of us. Had the pleasure of working with Tommy for many, many, many years of my career. Not to make you feel old, Tommy, but even as a cadet, coming around a little snot-nosed cadet running around Ocean City. Tommy was one of those guys that you just like a Del Baker or Dougie Scott that would always take the time to answer a question or work with you. And they probably were dog tired or may or may not have been having a good shift, but they always put their best foot forward. And that was something I always not only admired but also respected quite a bit. Is that no matter how bad things were, and Tommy, I don't know how much you remember saying this, but you said it often, no matter what was going on, you're like, man, this is still the best job in the world. And that resonates true today, and I still believe that. So, there's a lot of, TK timeline and history we want to get into and see what rabbit holes we go down. And, even going as far back, Tommy, as maybe, your beach patrol days or even the Hurricane nightclub bouncer days. You never know what might come up in here. So with that, TK, I'll throw it over to you for a little introduction and we'll take it away.
Now, first of all, I've seen you guys and we can't wait to see Bobby. You bring a smile to my face. Nothing but good memories and happy days. And I'm glad everybody's doing well, looking good and healthy. So, yeah, it's all good. I guess how I got to Ocean City. Came down the night I graduated from high school, didn't go to any parties or anything. The ocean has always had my interest in my heart. So went to Ocean City and worked for Mr. Jarman at Jimmy's Beach Service on Dorchester Street for a couple of weeks, and then took the beach patrol test, passed that. Did that for many summers, and went to Salisbury State back then, and as the traveled a few winters and then kind of settled into Ocean City during the winter time. And from my time on the beach, usually I guarded down by the inlet and the rock pile and the jetties. And I saw a lot of the fire EMS guys come out and girls. Billy Bounds, Cover, Stevie Cropper, Nelson Wright, Larry Buchanan, David Collins, Steve Davis, goes on, Gardenia, Mason McCabe. Anyway, so that caught my interest. And while I was going to school, I thought, well, I'm going to work for Jacques Cousteau, sail around the world and make a lot of money. So while I waited for that to happen, I decided, I'm going to join a volunteer fire company. And then there was a waiting list. And I think the waiting list was several months long. I think Stevie Cropper and Nelson Wright signed an application. Another winter passed, was taking some classes, still no word from Jacques. And I got into the volunteer fire company. And I went to Al Harmon's School of Fire Service upstairs on Dorchester Street. They let me go to school for my EMT, which was great. And then at that time, things were starting to get really busy in Ocean City, especially in the wintertime. And then the mayor and city council allocated 4 or 5 new positions. And Cobra said, hey, you want a job? I said, well, what do I have to do? So you have to work year round. Do I have to wear shoes? Can I wear my bathing suit? No, man, you gotta wear a uniform. Okay, I'll give it a whirl. Anyway, the best tangent I've ever taken. So we did that, and of course went to CRT school, paramedic school, and met a ton of great people, and stayed there for 31 years. And it was just great. My vision of Jacques Cousteau kind of went by the wayside, which was okay, because as far as I'm concerned, this was a better job. I did it for 31 years. And then there came a time where it was just time to move on. And so I did. And I think for next year, I taught school, taught at the community college, and did a little bit of tree work, landscape work on the side. then a good friend of mine, Ed Workhauser, retired battalion chief from Salisbury, he said, hey, there's an emergency management position available in Worcester County. You should apply for it. Well, what does it do? Do I have to wear shoes and socks? He goes, yeah, you got to sit in an office. I said, let me think about it. So he told me more about it, and he was doing it for the state of Maryland as the regional liaison for MEMA out of Reisterstown. And he said, it's kind of like what you do in the fire service and the EMS as far as incident command. It's just on a larger scale. You really have to network. I said, okay, I'll apply. Anyway, so I did, and I was very fortunate enough to get the job. And obviously been down there at, not the tavern, but whatever that restaurant was in Snow Hill.
The Harvest Moon.
Yeah, Harvest Moon. My director at the time was Teresa Owens. Worked out very well. After about 2 months, I hired in January, I think, of 2012. About 2 months later, she came into the office and said, hey, what are you doing in March? I said, I don't have any idea. How would you like to go to the National Hurricane Center for a week of training with FEMA and learn about the weather system? Being a fan of the beach and the ocean, I thought, man, this is a great way to learn more about the weather. Anyway, so I came home, asked for permission, as we do with most things, and I went down, and it was great. And I'd say FEMA gives each state agency grant money, and they allocate it for specific projects. And MEMA just distributes some of that money to, I think, Worcester County, anyways, to 3 or 4 jurisdictions. And the individuals that went to the school down there were from the Mid-Atlantic region. Bob McGee, another person that brings a great smile to my face. How you doing?
Hello, Tommy Kane. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. Hey, how is Kathy, Patrick, and Timmy?
They're all doing well, thank you.
Awesome.
How's your family?
Good. Everybody's good. Everybody's healthy.
Good,
yeah, no
good.
complaints up here. Or down here. It's all going good. Yeah, so anyway, I went down to the Hurricane Center and was like meeting the Derek Jeters of the Weather Service. It was just incredible. And the other good part was I got to network with people. We met several emergency managers from New York City. I mean, it was Connecticut, New Jersey, of course, Maryland, and Delaware. And we ran through a bunch of scenarios, how to deal with the press or what certain weather systems would do. So this is maybe March of 2012. One of the scenarios that we went through for everybody was, what if a tropical storm or hurricane went towards New York City and flooded out the subway systems, and the water rose to like very high levels? And the individuals from New York said, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. We're too well prepared up there for floods and taking care of those things. Well, you know what happened in October, November of 2012? Sandy. So that's turned out to be a good exercise. Hey, one of the other individuals I met up there, and you talk about, I think that emergency management could be a natural progression from fire, EMS, law enforcement, into your next profession. Joe Boccato, an assistant chief from Baltimore City, he was down there, and he was the operations director for MEMA. It's all good. So and now I'm doing some substitute teaching and enjoying the family even more and getting some ocean time in.
That's awesome. That's great. I'm just sitting here in awe. I remember.
I guess when I know you guys are advocates of training, I do have to say that through my career in Ocean City, even in Worcester County, whenever I asked to do some training somewhere within the state or one of the neighboring states, whether it's Virginia or Delaware, I don't think I was ever turned down. And I think that's a big plus for maintaining a good attitude throughout your career, is the ability to train and then share that knowledge, and it keeps everybody safe. So I was very happy that I was able to go to Miami as well as other places through those 5 years of being in emergency management. And then the resources from the state was very good about allocating funds for the counties or holding classes in different parts of the state so you could attain different levels of certification and recognition. And FEMA has a great program of independent study courses on their website. You can take those and get certificates. And then you can take some more classes to go towards other certificates, as well as classrooms to maintain different levels of certification. So it was just good that was trained, stay active, keep the joints going.
Yeah, and Tommy, one of the we were talking to Bobby a little bit before you came on. Certainly about the respect we've had for TK over the years, but one of the greatest things I think as inspiration for that training, not only being hungry for it, but TK, you're always one of those people that no matter what you learned, you would bring it back and share it. And not only that, but it was always the inference that, hey, I'll tell you everything I know. I want you to know everything I know and more. You're like, I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I want someone else to be the smartest guy in the room, and I can help them with that. So and I just want to say thank you for that over the years, because to me, there's so many people in our industry, whether it's fire, EMS, hazmat, emergency management, what have you, they have a tendency to cloister the information so they can be that important guy or girl when the time comes. And not realizing that, it's that team concept. And I think you always did that on your shifts. I know you did it on your shifts because I worked on your shift for a while. And, is bringing all that information and trying to make everybody better. So, Tommy, you have some, teaching background too. You touched on that a little bit between the community college and then, running your shift and doing some stuff. But what's your mindset when it comes to trying to share that information for the next generation? I mean, what's the lead thing in your mind that you're thinking about when you're trying to pass those things along to us?
Lead by example, which is something that you three, I've seen the three of you do. And, it's besides just taking the classes, I think we were lucky that we had many members who work for volunteer fire companies, with Bob McGee, Doug Scott, Ben, you are. So in addition to the training that we took at work, they took training at their home companies, and they would bring that back. So it seems like there was always a flow of information to improve and to make things safe. And it was in a very casual style. I mean, you sat at the kitchen table, the most sacred room in the firehouse. You talked about things, you argued about things. If somebody presented a way of putting on a splint or doing a hose drill, somebody said, well, let's try this a little better. And you go outside and you practice it. And if it worked out fine, you corrected your mistakes and everybody was better for it. But, there always seemed to be a discussion, and discussions were always good. And it's sharing that knowledge and training is the key to it all.
And Tommy, that's something else. I want to tell this quick story and then turn it back over. You always had the ability to talk to somebody on a very personal level. And I still remember when we as a fire department at that point, we didn't do ocean or surf rescue per se. I mean, we got calls for it before and after hours and beach patrol, but it was typically the guys who were the surfers and the water dogs who we go out there on an informal basis. So either you're a diver or surfer, somehow comfortable in the water. And I still can remember vividly when myself and Dell it was Wes Smith and Ward Kovacs, as a matter of fact. And I'm drawing a blank now. Who was Butch Arbin. They said, hey, if you guys want to come up and cross train on the beach, and this is before we could wear anything other than our collared shirt and pins and everything else. And Dell and I had snuck up to the beach to do some training. You knew about it. And of course we get I think it came out as a cardiac arrest or something. And Dell and I show up getting out of the ambulance, dripping wet with T-shirts and flip-flops and shorts, just soaked. And of course, David, you were the OIC, and David Collins came down on the scene, and
I remember that.
He had his famous phone face. He's like, kind of. But Tommy ran interference for us, and you took David Collins from the point of how getting ready to have a stroke himself to understanding what was going on. So you've always been an advocate for training yourself, and even sometimes at the detriment of getting yourself in trouble, you're able to explain the why behind it and saying, hey, I'd rather, and I've used this and giving you credit for it. I tell my folks all the time, I would much rather explain to a family why you showed up looking like a drowned rat than why it took you so long to get there while you're looking pretty. So if you were out training and doing the right thing to make your service better, by all means, I'm more than happy to explain to them why you didn't meet the dress code of the department that day. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
I remember that. We were at 24th Street. Anyway, don't sweat the small stuff. Not a big deal.
We thought we were getting fired. But Tommy's like, guys, I got this. Don't worry about it. Just go dry off. And fortunately, it turned out it was not a false call, but it didn't turn out to be anything.
Collins was an awesome boss. He was good. I don't think we really had any bad ones. I mean, towards the end, it got a little political, but up until then, whether Cover, Billy Bounds, Clay Stamp, David Collins, Theobald, everybody got along great. And even when we had that union stuff going on, we break out into a caucus, cuss at each other, walk it back, have a happy face, and everybody was content. So good times, all good times.
I'll never forget when I first got hired, we still had the career engine up at Station 3. And for a part-timer, especially a new part-timer, to have a shift on the wagon was unheard of. And it was on your shift. It was when one of the KMEs had just come in, and we had to go down to headquarters and load the attack lines on the back of it. And we were pulling out, and I remember sitting back there thinking, we had paid to run a fire engine. This is pretty cool. And I remember you saying, remember guys, positive customer service. And every time I remember pulling out of a fire engine with you as the officer, I don't remember if you said it every time, but in my mind, every time we left the firehouse, anytime we walked into a grocery store or into anywhere we went, it was always positive customer service. And that is something that has stuck with me. I mean, shit, that was probably 12 years ago now. And it's still something that we pull out, going on a call, going to get groceries, going to do whatever. And it's still in the back of my mind.
It is. It's all about customer service because it reflects back on you anyway. But I remember one time we went to the store and somebody called up and said, why is the engine at the store? And so we were getting food. Well, why don't you just bring your own food? So I said, I'm going to get them with customer service. The next time we went back to the store, we set up a little table. It was David, you, and I don't know who the fourth person was. We bought the little fire helmets and coloring books. And so we brought them into the store and started handing them out to the kids and anybody that wanted any. So, these guys are great going to the store. Now come on back anytime. It was all like the customer service. But it was we had all good bosses. I think they all advocated training. Emergency management, that move was, the fire and EMS was definitely a localized business because you stayed in your territory, you stayed in your station, you stayed with your equipment, and going to emergency management just expanded it. You dealt with a county, the county surrounds you. We had the Delmarva Task Force, which I think Clay Stamp started that, which involved the counties up in Delaware and then Virginia to the south, as well as the eastern shore counties. And we would have meetings and go through scenarios. And then once the air show expanded, with Theobald and Bob Rose and Mike Collins, then I felt like I started to understand it because, with so many players involved, there were, I guess, different airplanes or different show personnel from different aspects of life, federal, state, and local. I thought, gosh, what happens if a plane goes down on the federal park at Vassar? What happens if a plane goes down on the state park at Vassar? What happens if the plane goes within 2 or 3 miles of the beach or past those 2 or 3 miles? And it kind of goes back to that video that we've all seen, the hats of incident command with the Delaware State Trooper, puts on the different hats and talks about all the classes we take and says, what? Everything you need to know about incident command you learned in grade school. Hold hands, look both ways across before you cross the street, and get along with each other. That's it. But so back to the emergency management, we would have the tabletop exercise. So if something happened, we knew who was going to be in charge. We didn't have to fight over the different hats of incident command. All right. That becomes something.
Hello, Tommy.
How's everything?
I think the best way to start off was how I met Tommy. But maybe even before that. So, for decades in the fire service, there's been people that have definitely had a very big influence in my life. I've talked about Doug Scott in the past, and when I first got in the fire service, he was the one that sold me on the fact that we need to try to be good at it. We're in a very small, rural, slow volunteer fire department, and he didn't care. His focus was on doing things right. And there's been people like that. And where Tommy fits in this whole thing was when I got hired or was going through the hiring process in Ocean City. Tommy and I had never met that I know of, and was going down to do my physical agility test and all that stuff in the run and everything for the testing part. And Tommy was one of the proctors doing the test. And so it was a nice day. So I rode I have a Triumph motorcycle and I rode it down. And I rolled in the parking lot and I got off and Tommy met me at the door. He's like, "Man, who are you?" And I said, "I'm Bobby McGee." And he's like, "Man, what kind of bike is that?" You know, and we had this like a 5 or a 10-minute conversation, and you would have swore that we were friends forever. I mean, just Tommy's that kind of guy that, you know, whenever he would meet somebody, he would make them feel included, you know, make them feel like something. And I had the pleasure and the honor of working with Tommy when he was my lieutenant. And, you know, it was cool because he did care about the orders and the protocols and the SOGs and everything else. But he was always very respectful about it. And the way he went about it was, yeah, I want you to do what we're supposed to do here. But he was always very nice about it. But he would get animated if you try to push back a little bit, you know. But it's just, I mean, Tommy's just that guy that when Tommy was up here, we'd hang around each other a little bit. And he'd be like, we'd ride down the road and he'd be like, "Hey, I heard this guy's building choppers in Salisbury. Let's go find him." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, let's go find him. He's over here somewhere in the business park." And then we would find him. And you walked in, and within 5 minutes, this guy that built choppers all the time was his best friend, too. And we had a conversation about how to build choppers, and they ended up having mutual friends and, you know, things like that. So it was always so much fun. We still miss you, Tommy.
It's not a one person. It's not a one person. So we all reflect on each other. We're a product of our environment. You know, I mean, you all three of you, plus I was going to say pretty much all the people that we work with all had, you know, good attitudes, good personality. We're, you know, some a little more low key than others, but I mean that reflected on me, reflected on you, so we all reflected on each other. It was good. It was good.
So Tommy, I got a question for you. Yeah, it's not bad, but you know, when I met you, you were still doing like the triathlons and doing some really extreme kind of sports things. And you know, I have my own opinions, but you know, what do you think about the physical fitness in the fire service and where that should be?
Yeah, you got to have it. Healthy body, healthy mind. I mean, you're always pushing and pulling and lifting, whether it's fire, EMS, or whatever. And you know, to be physically fit is a reduction in call outs. It's a reduction in claims on insurance. So the city should be happy with that, or whoever you work for should be happy with that. Yeah, I'm definitely an advocate for it. I know that there's several times David and I would go for a walk, and we might go walk around the park, but it always seemed like you got a call or some sort of call for service when you're out exercising. And we tried, you know, covering stations, and that worked for a while. But you know, if you can do it on your off time, that's great. But I definitely think that the department should allow time for physical activity because it keeps them healthier, safer, and it's a good way. It's good for your customers too. I mean, it allows you to go out to do the job. It might be a little more strenuous, but if you're healthy, you know, you can accomplish the task. But at the same time, we always work as a team. So if somebody's too heavy, even though we're healthy and been working out, hey, just call for help. You know, keep it simple. No, I'm definitely an advocate. Not doing as much as I used to, but still trying to get in as much ocean time and swimming and biking as possible.
And Tommy, I still to this day, it's part of that collage in my office, but you remember the days when we used to get off shift at 74th Street Station and we have the early morning surf sessions, and there's a picture of me, you, Brannicky, and Dell, I think it is, and we're all there. Of course, you remember when hair was short and boards were long, way back in the day. But you know, we'd all go up there and surf in the morning. To Bobby's point, you know, it was just about that camaraderie and just, you know, kind of staying fit and challenging each other. And I always remember, because we ran tons and tons and tons of beach calls in Ocean City. And, you know, when you and Baker, I think that, you know, part of it was just between the camaraderie and everything else, but part of it was the old beach patrol days too, is, you know, where everyone's carrying their stuff. You know, Tommy's got like the old Men in Gray back monitor and like the, you know, 800 pounds of stuff. Baker's got the same thing. And these guys are David Hasselhoff across the beach, and neither one of them would even breathe through their mouth. They're like breathing through. I swear they both breathe through their ears, because they run up and, hello, what seems to be the problem today, drowning victim? And and the rest of us are sitting there sucking wind all day long. But it was great because it was like you said, Tom. It was lead by example without telling us that you were leading by example. It was just be kind to everybody, engage everybody. You knew people's names and their kids' names and what was going on, but also is that thing where you just had your tail kicked on a 24-hour shift, and the next thing you know, it's like we're heading across the street to the beach first thing in the morning because TK said, hey man, bring your boards, it's going to be a good swell tomorrow morning, and then we're all grubbing up on breakfast at General's Kitchen afterwards. So good stuff, Tommy. But you're right, Bobby. It's just that fitness level. But Tommy, you did the Ironman in Hawaii too, didn't you?
That was a long time ago.
So was Hawaii a state then or no?
I think they were. I think the year before. Bobby, I remember one time. Then we got like 15 flights of stairs, and the guy wanted to refuse, and we forgot to bring the book. We had everything. We had to sign a napkin. So I'm not coming back down here again.
Hey, Tommy, you kind of bridge for us the history of Ocean City Fire Department, and so one of the things is I know you started off as a beach patrol, right? When you first started down there, right? Tell everybody what history, what do you want to be remembered about the fire department when you first got in it? What was it like? What were the guys like, the friends you had back then, and just tell us a little bit about what your experiences were when you first got in the fire department, and you can say what year it is too if you want.
That started first of all, it was all good, and then all the guys and girls that we work with, they were great as well. I think my first year was, December of 1978. And then the city hired 5, and I think it was George Johnson, Ron Snyder, I think Wayne and Joey were already hired. And then Keith Long and Keith Downey came along. That's Montego Bay open year-round. That's why they hired everybody. Back then, it was pretty much everything was out of 15th Street and Dorchester Street. It was the winter times were kind of slow. You might go a week or two without a call. They probably ran more engine calls then for just alarm bells and weather-related stuff. A lot of regulars on medical. And winters were different. Definitely not like you have it now in Ocean City, where you're pretty much nonstop with probably like the second busiest city in the state for 4 or 6 months out of the year. But yeah, it was good. You train with the volunteer fire company. We did most of our training with them. Like I said, instead of taking Fire 1 and Fire 2, back then you took Al Harmon's fire school. Charles Elliott and Steve Cropper would teach you pumps, and then they would take you out to Elliott's Pond. You had a draft and pump. J.D. Quillen, the air pack man, he came in and showed you stuff, and then you had to repeat everything. So it was it was less book work and definitely a lot of practical work and being out in the field. So I guess what they say, see one, do one, or see one, teach one, do one, something like that. But yeah, it was great. And then things got more formalized in fire and EMS, CRT school, paramedic school, and then all the different fire schools from MIFRE. And then everything's just evolved. And I don't know how many people you have there now, but I have in one of my pictures of all of us standing in front of 15th Street. I know that Trevor's in that picture. And I think there were maybe 30 of us, and that included the dispatchers and everybody working. And I think everybody, well, a couple have gone, but and they're missed. But yeah, it evolved. Everything evolves over time. Everything gets better and more sophisticated. But all those years were good. And I think we always worked. I can remember a couple summers where they would not hire anybody in the summertime, and we were working a lot. And of course, the paychecks were good. And we're having parties with the girls from 93rd Medical Center as we look across to Big Red. But yeah, it was good. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, there's definitely an evolution, and the training was good, and all good memories, and everybody was safe.
So TK, when you started, there was no career staff at Station 3?
There was not. No.
Was that just volunteers? Because I know, Trevor, didn't you guys live there?
Yeah. Yep. The volunteers, they manned that station. Trevor and Jimmy Childs, J.D. Wells, Mike Hastings was there a lot. That station was manned almost 24/7, especially in the summertime. They took care of all the engine calls, all the fire calls. And now it was staffed in the summertime, but definitely not in the wintertime. Maybe an occasional busy or a storm would come in, and they might staff it. But there was maybe, I guess, in the original group, I don't know, Clay Stamp, there were maybe 15 of us, and then we just got busy and hired more.
Yeah, well, Tommy, I gotta. I was just thinking of when this for another show at another time, but a lot of those names that you brought up were just like you, very, very instrumental in shaping a lot of us. And I joke sometimes that I was abandoned at birth and raised by a pack of wild firemen, but people like Jimmy Childs, J.D. Wells, Mike Hastings, Chauncey Bowers, going back to some of those people. But my very first shift, obviously starting as a volunteer and stayed that way for quite a while. But my very first shift that I worked as a part-timer at Ocean City out of headquarters was with Tim Price as the OIC and George Johnson and Larry Buchanan. And best day in the world. I ran a apartment fire at 43rd Street, a cardiac arrest, and like a bunch of other calls. But I mean, it was like going to the Super Bowl on your first day of work. It couldn't have gotten any better.
Yep, I can remember. Yeah, before I was hired, a good friend of mine, Mike Matthog, we worked on the beach together. We went to Salisbury together. And he actually retired as an assistant chief, I think, out of Oceanside, California. But Larry would take us out and show us the medic unit, drive us around, show us the lights and siren, get the juice run, and kind of the first, one of our first introductions being inside the medic unit. He'd take us around George Chester Street, show us around the engines, and get us all jazzed up. And then he retired after like 31 years himself. So yeah, I would say Larry was the most instrumental, but he was definitely one of the ones. But yeah, those names of the volunteer fire company. I mean, some of those guys who just had such mechanical minds for figuring out pumps. I mean, thinking like Skip Bunny, even David Cropper. There's ropes and riggings and stuff. I mean, there's so much practical sense and so much a good sense for mechanics and getting things done. Good time.
Hey, Tommy.
Yeah, man.
So those that are watching and don't know, David Cropper's been a big part of the fire department for a long time. So this is a perfect time for you to tell us what it was like working with David Cropper. He's retired now, so he's safe.
I know. It was a blast. What was funny, because I think we both started, and I think the night I joined the volunteer fire company, I think David Cropper, David Lockwood, we all got sworn in the same time by Clifford Dipsky. But talk about two individuals who are as opposite as day and night, who can get along as good as peas and carrots, as Forrest Gump would say. Very sharp individual, good friend, probably one of the only ones I really talk to every couple months. I can see some of those things coming across there. If we had 2 hours, I could probably tell you some stories about the two of us. But the bottom line was, whether it was everybody who was working, we all got along very well. We got the work done, and I think we did the work with a very high quality. But a very sharp individual, a good friend, and working with him was definitely a treat. I mean, I learned so many things from him on the practical side, ropes and rigging and just sitting around talking. I mean, all the knowledge is not in books. It's in thinking and doing, and he's a thinker and doer. I don't know, what do you guys say about him? I'm sure probably pretty much the same. Well, you know what? When you mention a person's name and they bring a smile to your face, that's a good thing.
It definitely is, TK. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I said I'm trying to go through some pictures and find some of David and Tommy together, but
my last shift was with David and Carolyn down at Station 2. And
I was going to say, I think I remember that.
And that's good.
And Tommy, you hit on something really important. We're a family in the fire service, and you always reminded us of that because when you spend 24 hours at a time with a small group of people, it's just like it could be like your siblings or your aunts and uncles, parents, what have you. And there's times we get along, there's times we get on each other's nerves, but at the end of the day, we're all family and have that respect for each other. So, and I just remember a lot of the levity that you brought to the job too, and I saw Brad Reeder had put something in a few minutes ago about talking about how mental health in the fire service is such a focus today, in addition to physical health. And that was always one of the things that you always as a lieutenant, just as a human being and a brother firefighter, paramedic, you were always looking out for how everybody was doing and reminding us, hey, look, at the end of the day, we're all family here. We're going to get the job done, but not at the expense of ourselves. And that was one of the very unique things that no matter how bad things got, whether it could be the most horrific fire call or medical call, whatever. A lot of you guys, David, all those guys would always have some sort of levity. Some of which now would be like chapters. Actually, I think Mike Hickman is responsible for chapters 7 through 9 of the Human Resources Manual. But most of those things today would probably get us in a little bit of trouble. But like you said, there's so much just good practical knowledge, and people brought that forward, and looking back, it's just it's a great job. It's like you said, the greatest job in the world.
Yeah, I saw when you mentioned Brad, I would say probably one of the worst, I won't say not the worst call, but one of the worst nights I ever had was with Brad. It involved a fatal on B9, and we'll leave it at that. But when I saw him at Dell's retirement party, we both spoke of the same incident at the same time. Brad was a really sharp summertime person for us, which he would have stayed. But if you're sleeping there with somebody for 24 hours every couple of days for 20, 25 years, then you get to know each other real well, and you get to share a lot of things that's work related and non-work related.
And I would agree, Tommy. And I've heard a lot of names mentioned tonight that I haven't heard in a long time, or probably even haven't spoken in a long time. But it does kind of beg the question in my mind. We certainly worry about the current generation and the future generations, but I think it's really important that we remember a lot of those people who served before us, because we're standing on their shoulders, yours included. But when we talk about some of these names, and you just brought up, wow, one of the worst calls I was on was with this individual or that individual. So Ben, you were very instrumental. I think you and Kimmy, which I thought was great. I was a little bit kind of. I thought the name you gave it was great for people like Tommy, Dell, Collins, all those guys. But Ben, can you talk about that for a little bit? What kind of made you bring that lunch together? Because Ben would get the retirees together, and it was just nice. We sit around, just shoot the bull and talk about stories. And I'm still the kid. I was a kid when I came in. I was a snot-nosed kid then, and I'm still the kid of that group. So. With that, Ben and Tommy, if you guys don't mind for a second, just kind of talk about that and what it means to you and why you put that together.
Yeah, I think it all started when Tommy started. Like, you had already retired, and you were working in Snow Hill at that point for emergency management. And I think Kimmy came down. We were working on something as athletic trainers. I said, well, Tommy's just down the street. She says, no way. I said, yeah. I said, we would text back and forth, or I'd email you about something, and we go. And Kimmy is like, well, we should try and go to lunch with him. I was like, sign me up. And Holloway was working at Snow Hill.
Yep. Another good person there.
Yeah. So it was just something that we started reaching out, and it went from the 3 or 4 of us to I just scrolled past. Again, I'm still looking for pictures. I mean, we would have most of the restaurant was filled up with people that were retired from Ocean City. I mean, it was a heck of a group. I'd have to call. Here it is. And this isn't even everybody. I'd have to call and give them a heads up because, part of it was because of Ray Wooten was coming. Let's see, here we go.
Yeah, the JH. Yeah, talk about some memories there.
Right?
Every one of those individuals, top notch.
Yeah. And, it was just, in all honesty, I was being selfish because like those are all people that were working in Ocean City that I had, started with and was, had become friends with, and working in the schools. I would only work, a couple months out of the year over the summer when we were busy. So I didn't get to see everybody. So again, it was kind of selfish that, try and get all these people together. And I think it was through one of the lunches the first time I met Hickman. And that has completely changed my life forever, in a good way and in a bad way. We're not going to talk about the second half of that, but
it's nothing a little mouthwash and therapy won't take care of it.
Did you get your last shot in the series yet?
Yes. Yeah, I did get that. I'm working. Hang on a second. Working on my mouthwash right here.
I think as much as we would like to see everybody from the past, I think those from the past would like to see everybody as well. So that would be anything to work on. Give a couple months worth of notice. Maybe have something at the firehouse or just a restaurant in Berlin or just a mutual location. I'm sure a lot of people would travel for that. Because I can't think of anybody who would not like to see somebody else. I think everybody got along very well.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, the next lunch needs to be in Virginia Beach, I think.
Or Florida in the wintertime.
Yeah, I call that Tuesday, Tom.
There was one. Remember the dinner that we did at the Globe?
Yep.
That was a great turnout. We actually did a couple. Remember that? We had one that was upstairs, and then we did another one that was huge. It was on the stage, and that's when they brought Larry Buchanan, and he's down at the far end of the one end. I'm down at the other, sitting there next to JH, which, like, holy cow, that's another one. Like, yikes. Nothing but love for JH, but I remember looking down and it was Larry Buchanan was sitting next to May Krantz, and I'd look down and I look back at JH like, can you believe that that's what they're talking about? Like, holy shit, they're gonna get us thrown out of here. And JH's like, nah, it's okay. I know the owners. We're good. I was like, wow. No, those were. We really should. Like, I need to work on getting something set up because that would be a blast. I know, Trevor, we've talked about. When you make a Rockstar trip up and see if we can't coordinate and getting everybody together, because that would be awesome.
Yeah, don't threaten me with a good time. It's all good.
Yeah, right.
Trevor, does your job involve any emergency management?
Why, yes, it does. Initially, it didn't, which wasn't a bad thing. It was just what it was. And we actually transitioned from our own municipal police department to our law enforcement being absorbed by Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. So our emergency management used to be underneath the police department, which was its, they're very, or at least, that department was very mission specific. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, but emergency management was not really at the top of the priority list or even a language that they spoke very fluently, because it's just like, all right, when something happens, we'll tell you what to do. And, of course, I'm coming in full of piss and vinegar. Okay, well, hey, here's my AP for Hurricane Irma. Here's this. Here's our operational period. Here's my 211, my 214. And, they're looking at me like I have three heads. And I was like, okay, fine. We'll stay in our silos. We'll stay in our lanes. But I was trying to have the interoperability. And And then also our ocean rescue used to be underneath the police department too, for whatever reason. That's just the way the structure was. So about 2.5 years ago, when we transitioned to PBS, or I guess it's about that long ago, about 2 years, about 2 years ago or so, we transitioned to the sheriff's office for our law enforcement. My mayor at the time came to me and says, "Oh, by the way, next week you're in charge of ocean rescue and emergency management." Okay, rock on. So yeah, I took a page out of the Tommy Kane playbook. It's like, oh, okay, no need to worry until you need to worry, and I'm not worried. So let's go forward. I think Mo Cropper put that up a few minutes ago. One of your famous go-to quotes. So yeah, so we do a little bit of all of it, which is good because we have the interoperability. The sheriff's office certainly, because the economy of scale. They're such a large law enforcement agency. They're one of the largest east of the Mississippi River here in Palm Beach County. I mean, they know that stuff inside and out. So it was just a complete transition to going from very dissociated, everyone's in their own silos, to being able to work with multi-agencies, and even though they're not part of the municipality, they're hand in hand with us each and every time. Our ocean rescue folks. So I'm not by trade, I'm not a emergency management trained to the degree that somebody else may be who goes strictly into that field. But between between the hurricanes, COVID, and some of the other stuff, it's really been trial by fire, and or trial by pandemic too. So it's good. But I look to you a lot, Tommy, as well, and say, hey, this is something that a lot of this is already familiar to us. It's just about expanding it or contracting it to meet the incident at hand. So the short answer, Tommy, is we actually kind of do it all. Some municipalities have a standalone emergency management division, just like Ocean City did, and others it's incorporated somehow, some way, usually fire service based.
I mean, do you have to do any writing yourself, like hazard mitigation plans or any nuclear facility plans? And
yeah, all that. We have to do the theory assessments, all that kind of stuff. And even though we're not directly responsible for it, I mean, it's a small area, but we have the Port of Palm Beach right across from us. We have several target hazards right there. The previous presidential administration, we had the Winter White House was the next island down. So anything that would happen within the county would affect all of us essentially, and to different degrees. But so there's always that hazard assessment that's going on, and Tommy, I want you to kind of weigh in on this too. One of the biggest challenges that I found is actually trying to bring this forward. And I could speak to any one of you guys on the screen, and we understand what we're saying. Well, we're not a people divided by a common language. But if you have to speak to some municipal leaders or community leaders, you have to figure out a way to translate all of our jargon to make sense to them. So how did that work for you, Tommy? Because you spent so many years because you had the gift of talking to people and be able to address them. But how did that work for you when you went from? And I remember you saying this. It's like we be grab assing in the in the kitchen at Station 3 eating lunch and cutting up and carrying on, and then you go into probably a more formalized environment where lunchtime was very reserved, and nobody's spiking anybody's sandwich with anything or hot peppers or anything else. So how did you make that transition from fire service to emergency management, and then talking to the people that you needed to talk to?
The ones that needed it, you had to re-explain it and kind of pull them to the side and say, look, this is why we're doing it. This is what the end product would be. And let me give you an example why we should be doing this. At least on the Maryland side, Maryland had MEMA, the Maryland Emergency Management Agency. They had great resources, and they would send down their staff to help us explain, like we had to do a FIRO, or if we were getting a hazard mitigation plan, and let's say the commissioners wanted a word in there, we would bring down the group that was contracted by the state to give us a hand and say, no, wait a minute. And this is like a one-on-one or two-on-two conversation. The reason why we can't do this because this is a FEMA word that has to be in there. And if that word isn't there, when FEMA rereads this to approve it, they won't give us the $20,000 to make this project go through. So the choice is, we can put that word in there that you want, but that means it's going to cost you $20,000. And then we'll explain more about the definition and where the project is leading to another paper or another book that needs to be written. The end product was that it always worked out. But to make the point, you had to pull them to the side, individually talk to them, and kind of just re-explained it in layman's terms. And then it was the same thing, like if you said, well, we know you're a politician, but we really want you to take an ICS 400 class, which why don't I even sit the 3 days of this stuff? I have no idea what you're talking about. And you say, okay, come on over here. Let me talk to you and tell you why this is important. And then you usually tie money to it. Say, well, if you don't have this and we get hit by Sandy or something, which we did, and you may not get the reimbursement that you want to get. And then once you mention money, you say, okay, we do that.
Yeah, and Tommy, you're right, because for all the pushback, when you reassert yourself in that position and say, hey, look, you put me in this position to give you guidance to the best of my knowledge and ability, and at the end of the incident, when 6 months later you're getting your full, whatever the threshold was, your 75-85% reimbursement from FEMA, and you kind of want to do that little dance a little bit when if your police department or your public works department didn't do the same thing, and they're getting 35-25% nothing. But you're absolutely right that they understand when you put it in financial terms. But and Tommy, you've always had that gift of being able to just talk to anybody. One of the things that I learned from you as well was, in part, was to be able to look at people's different personalities, because you remember from some of the people, even in Ocean City, some of our commissioners and council people and mayors, that one was a bottom line guy. They flip to the very back page of the budget and say, too much, cut it by 5%. Other people, what's his name, Vince, that he would go and see, he say, hey, on page 42, line 3, subsection this is 10 cents more than last year. Why? And so everyone had a different way, whether they were, what they call it, like driver, amiable, expressives, the mom and apple pie people, the bottom line people. So, how'd you learn to navigate that, Tommy, when you went from, fire service, being able to talk that language into just a whole new subset of people?
If it was local, I sent David Cropper in to talk to him. But at the county level, I was third on down the line. We had a director, assistant director. But I guess the good thing was, whether it was Ocean City or actually even Ocean City, when we started our negotiation stuff, where we had an idea, we wanted to run it through the council first. Dennis there was always receptive to letting John Holloway and myself come in and talk to him. He said, send us on down and talk to Guy Ayers. At the county level, Fred Webster would go talk to the commissioners one-on-one, or he'd bring them down to EOC, and we would talk to them about what we're doing and what the price tag is. But I think that was the benefit of living in a smaller area. Probably unlike Baltimore City or Baltimore County, it was more of I'll say almost like a first name basis. We talk, we can make an appointment, we go and see somebody. So we're never really shut down. And then if we need to go back 2 or 3 times to talk to them, or bring in somebody that maybe explained it better than I could or somebody else could, I might bring in somebody from the health department, or I might ask for, I don't know, somebody from Pocomoke to help me. So it was just knowing your resources and then picking the right time to tackle the challenge.
To me, that's something that shows just, not only like maturity and integrity, but just some requisite knowledge, because you don't always have to be the face of something. Even if you're in charge of it, you don't have to be in charge. David, for example, is one of those people that he had a great rapport with a lot of folks. He knew them on various different levels and bases. So he would be the better messenger. He could take the message, but not. And I think that takes a lot, and that was one of the greatest, I think, leadership attributes, among the many. That, as you said, you lead by example, and we saw that quite a bit. That you didn't always have to be the guy carrying the ball, and you would give that to other people, and no matter where they were in the department, you did that.
Hey, ask for help, and if I can do it, I ask Bobby to do it, or we be in a situation and say, hey, Bobby, what do you think is going to work better here, or Dougie, or somebody else that I'm working with, because even if you have a rank, you definitely don't know it all. So use your resources. It's a team. It's definitely never an individual game. There's always the team there, the shift. If that doesn't work out, bring the next station down, or bring the next county in, the next city. We've got the resources, let's use them.
I do have to call Tommy out.
Classes, we take it.
Yeah.
What?
Tommy's not always the best guy. I got to call him out a little bit. He served me the worst. He served me the worst vanilla ice cream I ever had at Station 3 one time.
I remember that.
Yes, so do I.
Oh, that was a good one though, wasn't it?
It was. Apparently,
that was a good one.
Fresh vanilla ice cream has very much the same look as margarine does. So my second scoop was quite. I think David Cropper was there for that one too. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he was. It was teamwork on that. Yeah. While Bobby was expressing something with his hands, we did the old switcheroo. Never knew it.
Right, well, on that note, Tommy, between David Cropper and Jack Fisher, what is the most bizarre and unique kind of animal that you've eaten that was either shot or killed by a vehicle that they brought to the firehouse to cook?
Oh my gosh. Most bizarre. I'll tell you probably I don't know about bizarre, but I'll tell you one of the tastiest things is that David's dad, Turner, would bring in these things that he called clam hearts. And actually what he did, when he would go into bed, he'd take those quahogs, the big clams, and that abductor muscle, he would slice them paper thin and put them in a buttercup for us and bring it up every couple months. They are so tasty that if a restaurant knew how to make those and what they were, that would put sushi out of business. But those are probably one of the oddest things that tasted the best in all those years that came from Turner Cropper, clam heart. And his clam chowder was really good too. Looked like mud, but it tasted like gold. But yeah, Fisher, they never brought any pigeons in or anything, which is good.
Here, I'm gonna throw this picture back up. This was from our dinner. Actually, we're gonna do this. Make it big
Mike
for everybody.
Chance, truck individual there, would have been a great officer.
Yeah, today's actually his birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Michael. Good crew.
I don't know if you guys saw it earlier. McCready Crabpot put in the comments that Dell walked into Station 4 one day and nobody knew who he was. Well, no kidding. Look what he looks like here.
He looks like frickin' Ernest Hemingway. Look at him.
I mean, there he's a little cleaned up, but imagine him walking in after being out on the boat fishing or diving or doing whatever, and holy cow, he looks homeless.
I think one of the guys thought he was homeless.
Excuse me, sir. Can I call somebody for you?
Looks like a Norwegian fisherman.
Old Hans Bronze.
So what do you got going on with your department, Trevor? What kind of stuff are you doing? What kind of training?
A little bit of everything. You know how it goes, Tommy. You got so many things that you got to try to be proficient in, and you just don't have enough time or resources or anything else to do it. But very blessed to work with a great group of people. Bobby, both Bobby and Ben have been down there, but Bobby's actually come down and done some training with some of my folks. When he's been in town, I've kind of conned him away from his family, which I'm sure they probably want to throw rocks at me, but he's come over and done some training with us, and so we have a little bit of everything.
She was good with a break from me.
What's that?
She was fine with a break from me for a while.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, but now we got a lot of stuff going on. The typical standard garden variety fire and EMS stuff, but with the target hazards, similar to Ocean City, but in a much smaller scale. I mean, we have the high rises, we have some of the large marinas, we have the inlet, some of the outlying areas, but overall, it's going pretty well, and it's just I've got such a cycle because we're a small department that I lose a lot of people, especially my volunteer corps, to the career industry, which is great for them. Right now, the hiring down in this region is very, very prolific, and it's a great time to get into the fire service as far as being able to jump on board and get established and have a good pay grade and upward mobility. So I tell them all the time, I said, look, if I'm going to lose you, it needs to be to success and not something stupid. So very, very, like I say, very blessed to have him for the time that I do. I just had one of my full-time firefighter paramedics who he's got a young family. He just took a job. He started the academy with County Fire Rescue on Monday. He's going to do great, and I guarantee he'll be doing well. Not long out of that, and a couple of my other folks that work with me in the department full time, and as well as volunteers, I see them regularly, and it's kind of cool because they come back. They'll say, hey, do you mind if I come to one of your Tuesday night drills? And hey, I learned this really cool stuff, and I'd like to share it with the people there. Absolutely, and it's just really neat. It's really neat to have those people kind of come back home, so to speak, because for the majority of them, it's just like me in Ocean City. That's where I started as a kid. Cool. And you respect that, and you understand that, and you know where your roots are and where you got established in the fire service, and then the people who, whether or not they felt like it, again, like the Tommy Kanes, the Doug Scotts, the Del Bakers. You mentioned Keith Downey earlier. I had a chance to work with him for a few years. I actually replaced it. I was a P8 back then, or 7408. I replaced Keith Downey's position. It's how long ago it was. So you look at that progression and say, okay, what can I give back at this point? Between the good, the bad, and the ugly, as Tommy, you say all the time, it's still the greatest job in the world. But what can you glean from all of that and tell this new person coming in the fire service who sees things through a completely different spectrum and prism that you do, how to say, look, this is going to be a really crazy wild ride for the next 25, 30 years. Strap in and have fun, and go for it. But I'm very blessed to have some really great folks. I have a very young workforce for the most part. So it's so funny because I'm still the kid as far as all you guys are concerned, and then I'm the old man at work. So it's
you're
kind
still
of
the old man.
To be. What's that?
You're still the old man.
Shut up, Ben. No one asked you.
I tell that to Bobby, but he's my boss.
He can't hear you. It's okay. Or he'll forget about it. You can tell him whatever you want, but he'll lose it or forget about it. Actually,
finger pointing.
Yeah, he's giving me the unicorn fist. I learned that term the other day. It's called the unicorn fist.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so please use that. It's not mine, but I wanted to share that.
Yeah.
So,
well,
and actually, real quick, I don't worry about Bobby ever getting lost, like in his dotage, when he's an old man, because there's always a trail of Bobby somewhere. Like it's like, oh, there's Bobby's gloves. Oh, there's his hood. There's his job shirt. So at the end of that trail of all the shit Bobby lost, you'll find Bobby. He'll be okay.
There's a naked Bobby.
Ew. I won't tell him about that time that you rode on the back of my motorcycle, Bobby. Well, that's another show.
Well, those were good times.
That's good bike week. What a Tommy Kane.
Yes, it was. That me and Bobby McGee again.
Well, we are just a little over an hour, so we're going to go ahead and start wrapping it up. We're going to kick it down to Bobby, then over to Trevor, and then up to Tommy for our final thoughts. So go ahead, Bobby. After we just got done beating up on you.
Yeah, that hurt a little bit. Good thing I'll forget about it. So, Tommy, thank you very much for coming on. And
man, my pleasure seeing you guys.
It's things are different in Ocean City. Lots of really good people have left, and lots of really good people are coming in. So it's a progression of things, and all that. But it's great to kind of go back and talk about how things were. Back in, I guess you call it back in the day, whatever that day is. So it's really good to have you on here, and I'm glad you're doing well. It sounds like your family's doing really well. And send my wife, send your wife my sympathies for being with you when you're retired all the time. I'm sure that's not easy for her.
Yeah, that's why I enjoyed your last podcast 2 Thursdays ago.
Gotcha. Yeah. So. I'm currently doing a firefighter 1 class for the VOTEC here in Worcester County, and so I'm seeing the brand new guys and girls coming in, and the future is still bright for the fire service. For those thinking about doing this for a living, I've never regretted a day of it. I've loved everything I've done. And it's because I've been able to meet people like Tommy and Trevor and Ben and all those people along the way. It kind of made it very interesting. Sadly, if you do it, a third of the stories you can't really tell anybody. But that's what kind of makes it fun. So thanks everybody for showing up, and thank you, Tom. We got to get together soon.
All right, man. My pleasure.
Trevor, that's you, buddy. Trevor, hello.
I know I'm moving on island time now, brother. So, Tommy, it's great to see you. And I know you're always you're always a humble guy and give credit everywhere else, but you definitely inspired a lot of people in our industry, myself included. Loved working with you every minute of it. And I refer to you often in the positive way. The other stories, like the other third that Bobby's talked about, we keep them off the radar until the statute of limitations is over with. But no, it's been a great ride, and it's just it's great to see you, and just look at that vast amount of experience and knowledge that you're able to share with everybody and still do today, and you still bring the positivity and the greatness of the job forward. So Tommy, it's awesome to see you. Glad you and the family and your girls are doing well. Your curse has been passed along now to Steve Twilley. I think what he's got 3 or 4 daughters now. 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tommy, you double cursed him, so he's got all girls too. So I guess he's carrying the torch for you now.
Lucky man.
He's a lucky boy. So with that, Tommy, thank you so much, man. We love you, brother, and really glad to have you on the show. So with that, Ben, I'll give it to you to wrap us up and do the final stuff. TK.
We're gonna get some final thoughts from TK. Go ahead.
Yeah, just thanks a lot. I mean, it's just those Feltmans of Coney Island hot dogs, best in the world. Always a pleasure seeing you guys. You bring a smile on my face. So I'm glad everybody looks so well and doing well. You keep up the good work. Tell your families we said hello. Bobby, Ben, tell everybody in Ocean City I send my best. Hopefully I'll make it to Florida sooner rather than later, and maybe we can pull something up in Delaware or Ocean City or Florida to get everybody together. But just a real pleasure seeing everybody. So thank you very much. And we're just a product of our environment. It's all good.
Yeah. Thanks, TK. I do have one more since we just kind of got done talking about family and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to share one more picture, and I stole this from On the Line. So got to show off man and his proud family. Look at that. That's a great picture, TK.
There's the main fire chief in that yellow dress right there. Yep. Everybody's doing good.
Yep, and you're a grandchild short, correct?
Right. Yeah, Madeline, which is over my left shoulder. She has a little girl, Mila. And then Megan is holding Rowan. And then the one in front of Sarah is Tommy.
That's awesome.
Yep. That's all good. Hey, that's what it's all about.
That's right. That's right.
So what's that? Ohana, right? Ohana. It's Hawaiian for family.
Yeah.
She got the tattoo. She wants me to get one. She wants me to get Ohana tattoos like she got.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm chicken. I'm afraid of needles now. We'll see. Maybe soon.
Well, we're gonna wrap it up here. What a great show! What a great opportunity to sit down and chat with TK about everything going on. It was great to get some perspective from his various careers between beach patrol, the fire and EMS, and emergency management. I know in the conversations that we've had with him, or that I've had with him, that he really enjoyed the time in emergency management, and now he's really enjoying his job as a grandfather. So, TK, congrats! Thank you for everything that you've taught me. Oh, there's Shelby with Bobby.
Yeah, I learned something from Bobby and Trevor too, and May Krantz and David and everybody else. It all balances out.
Oh yeah. So before we sign off here tonight, let's raise a glass. One to TK, the one and only, and then hold it up there, fellas, because we got the line of duty death for the FDNY fireman that passed away yesterday, and then a couple days ago we had a fireman in Harford County, Maryland, pass away on the job. So for them, cheers.
All right.
Now, so as we wrap up, 2 weeks, we've got Trevor has recently passed on some contact information for some great folks that are going to be coming up. One is the fire chief of Pittsburgh, So we're going to try and get him on. And then there's one is a chief from Boston. That's Pat Nichols. Is that correct, Trevor and Bobby?
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to reach out to those and see if we can't get those guys set up. Apparently, we're not going to try and get Chief Nichols on for St. Patty's Day. That's a bad idea, Trevor said. So we'll work on that. So
yeah, try to get an Irish fireman to come on a podcast on St. Patrick's Day. If you can do it, brother, if you can pull it off, I want to see it.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. We'll see what shakes out.
You can. It just won't go well.
Or it'll go great.
Yeah, we need a 3-second delay on the podcast.
So if you guys are still interested in catching some more great information and another great podcast, I don't know if you guys have seen the Getting Salty Experience podcast. Those guys, a couple of retired guys from the FDNY, they have retired Chief Vinny Dunn on tonight, who has written extensively about building construction and collapse and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys really enjoyed this and still want some more, go check those guys out. They do a great job, and it's guaranteed to be a great show. So with that being said, again, cheers, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure. And have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
All right, man. Be safe. Thank you, man.